Hello everyone. Today's video is going to be all about my breastfeeding journey with Kinsley and the challenges that we had to overcome. I really wanted to share this experience with you guys because there were some things in here that were new to me that I had no idea about and I had to do so much research online for, so I just really want to help out any other moms that might be going through the same thing. I am going to have another video after this that is going to be all about my breastfeeding must-haves this time around that has really helped us out, so definitely stay tuned for that. But if you are brand new to my channel, hello, welcome. My name is Madison. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and get into it. So just a little bit of a backstory with me if you're brand new. I have two daughters. One is Riley, one is Kinsley. Riley is almost 3 years old. She turns 3 in October. She's like 2 years, 8 months. And Kinsley is almost 4 months old. So with Riley, we breastfed till about 3 months old. At 2 months, we had a supplement because of some of the things that we went through really hurt my supply. And she just did not like to nurse. Like, that girl just could not latch properly and it was a struggle, and she weaned me off. She was like, I'm done with this. And I went through really bad baby blues whenever I pumped. So that is something that you can get when pumping, is I guess like there's a hormone or something that's released when you are pumping with your letdown, and that can cause the baby blues, and it was just ramping up. So I just could not handle it anymore. So we stopped, and 3 months she was on formula. So I'm all about fed is best. Whatever works best for you, because I have experienced it both right now, and I went through a lot of challenges with Riley. So we finally were just so much happier at 3 months with her going to formula. With Kinsley, I told myself, I am going to make this happen. I'm going to try, because she's my last one. And I was like, we got to make this work. So I was very adamant on it, but she also was a really good nurser. Like, this girl wanted to nurse. It was like it was so different between the two. All right, so some of the challenges that we went through with Kinsley was the tongue tie, the recessed chin, and the reflux. So first off, to touch base on the tongue tie. So I had to go through that with both girls. I knew that my girls were gonna be tongue tied because I was tongue tied. So you definitely have a higher chance of having your children to be tongue tied. So I knew to ask about that right when they were delivered. They have a pediatrician there at the hospital that can check, and lo and behold, they both were. So Riley had an anterior, Kinsley had a posterior. Both of them, we got referrals to the ears, nose, throat doctor, and we had it snipped. The reason why I'm about getting it snipped when they're a baby is because it's a lot more of a process down the line, and it also can cause a lot more issues down the line if it's not taken care of. So for me, they didn't catch mine until I was 3 years old, because they really didn't check for those types of things. And they caught it because I had to get tubes in my ears. So when I had to go under to have tubes in my ears, they went ahead and snipped it and did stitches, and boom, I was fine. So it's definitely a little bit more of a process if you're older. So it's a lot easier if they're a baby, because you don't have to do stitches at all. So all they do is just do a quick little clip, and then it's definitely heartbreaking to see them in pain, but I promise you, they get over it so fast. They just put them right on the boob, they get the proper latch, they make sure everything looks good, and all you do is just make sure you sweep underneath it a couple times a day for a week to make sure it doesn't grow back. But I promise you, they don't feel it. Like with Riley, she was probably sensitive for a couple hours, like on her next feed, and then was totally over it, didn't even remember it. And Kinsley was only sensitive right after it happened for that first feed, and then later on didn't even know that it happened. It's definitely a lot easier of a process to do it when they're younger, and it can prevent a lot of other things from happening down the line, which is why I prefer to do it as a baby and to get it snipped, because of my experiences with it. So what happens with the tongue tie is it can keep them from getting a proper latch on you, so it can damage your nipples, and it can also hurt your supply. So you really want to make sure they get that proper deep latch. So when I was there with Kinsley, I already knew this, but Kinsley has a little bit of a recessed chin. Definitely a little bit more than what Riley did. I'd never really realized that Riley had one, to be honest, because, well, all babies are usually born with a recessed chin because it naturally helps breastfeeding. But when babies are born with more of a recessed chin than normal, it can hinder breastfeeding. So we caught this in the ultrasound, and we didn't think anything of it because it wasn't linked to any syndromes, like, because I know that there's Pierre-Robin syndrome, but Kinsley does not have that. They would not snip her tongue tie if she did. The ears, nose, throat doctor said, she goes, yeah, she doesn't have this. Pediatrician says she doesn't have this. She just has a little bit more of a recessed chin. And it starts to come out around 4 months old and doing lots of tummy time. So that's what we've been doing with her, and it's definitely coming out now, which is great. But when we were there, that doctor, she goes, she has a recessed chin. She goes, I'm gonna warn you right now. She goes, just because we're snipping this tongue tie, she goes, doesn't mean your journey is gonna be over here. It's gonna be harder because she has that recessed chin. So I was like, yay, because I was very adamant. I was like, I'm going to breastfeed this girl. Like, I want it, because I know she's my last, so I wanted to make it happen. So I was like, all right, okay. So we snipped it, we got the proper latch, everything was great. It wasn't hurting anymore. But then a couple days later, I noticed it was hurting again, and it's because of her recessed chin. So I did a lot of research, and then I also went and saw a lactation consultant, and I found that it really comes down with positioning when you have a baby with a recessed chin. So one of the best positions to do, because what I was doing is I was having her lay on a pillow, the breast bend pillow, which I love, but she can't do that position with that chin, or she couldn't at that time. So what I had to do is I had to put her at an angle, keep her kind of directly like at an upward angle, and then I had to lean back and had her go belly to belly, and that allowed her to get that deep latch to where it didn't hurt, and she would help stimulate my supply, and it was great. So that was how we tackled that. So it's all about positioning on her. So if you have a baby with a recessed chin, upward angle, lean back a little bit, make sure they get that good deep latch, and just kind of bring out that bottom lip. But that is how we overcame that part. The next thing was the reflex, and this is where that same position really helped us. So if you breastfed within 7 years of each other, your next baby has a tendency to you'll have probably an oversupply with your next baby. That's what I was told from a lactation consultant. So I had an oversupply with Kinsley, and I also had a fast letdown. So this caused reflux in her. So what I learned to do with that fast letdown is I let gravity really help me out. So instead of like leaning forward, because gravity, what that's gonna do is gonna really push your milk out, and it's gonna push out fast, and that's gonna cause them to choke and get that reflux. So what I did is I leaned back, did our positioning with her, put her on there, and I let gravity help me out, so that way it wasn't as fast on her, and it really, really helped. Also with the reflux, with the oversupply, I would only nurse her for short feeds, but more frequently. That is what helped us the most, because then she wasn't getting too much. You hear the saying, you can't overfeed a breastfed baby. I said this to my pediatrician. I go, they say this, but I go, in my situation, you can. And she's like, yeah. She goes, you're true. You're very right on that. Because I'm like, I go, she was getting overfed, so she was spitting it and projectile vomiting it out. So I had to do shorter feeds, but more frequently, and that's what really helped us. Another thing that really helped was this little guy right here. This is a hands-free pump. You can get, this is the Haka one. I have the Lancino one downstairs. But what you do with this, you just fold it like this, squeeze, pop it right on, and what it does is it helps catch that letdown on the other side. So this really helped me out because I had a fast letdown and oversupply, so it really eased down the other side for her. And I was able to collect a lot of milk from it. I would collect like 3 to 4 ounces of feed, so it let me build up my stash, and it was awesome. You could also use it like when you're out and about and you say you're a little engorged and you're like, oh my God, I need to relieve myself. You could just hook it on and you just squeeze, and you can just pump a little bit out, and then that way you can relieve yourself. So these are hands down the best. I'm gonna talk more about them in my must-haves video, but that really also helped my oversupply and my fast letdown. So the positioning and just the frequency of feeds, that really changed things. And I have to say, like, those first 2 months were so hard. They were so hard, but once we got through it and once we adjusted things, it just worked out perfectly, and now we basically exclusively breastfeed, and this girl just loves to nurse. Those are some of the tips and tricks that kind of got us through those challenges and obstacles that we went through, and now she exclusively breastfeeds, and it's gotten a lot easier. She basically nurses for like 10 to 15 minutes, it's super quick now. I have to say I saw a huge change around 3 months, 3 to 3.5 months, where the nursing feeds got more scheduled out and they got shorter. So if you're in the beginning right now, I promise you it gets easier. The first 2 months are rough, and then around 3 months to 3.5 months, it's a huge change and it gets a lot easier. You just have to kind of get through that hard time. And again, I hope that these tips and tricks help any of you moms that are dealing with the same issues like a tongue tie or even the recessed chin, which I don't see really anyone talking about. And it definitely was a big challenge with us, but just with positioning, that really, really saved us. So I really hope that these help you. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer anything I can answer for you guys. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye.